Hamas has submitted a list of hostages it proposes to free in the first stage of a ceasefire deal with Israel. And this is in addition to a list of Palestinian security prisoners held by Israel that it wants released. And this is according to reports. Now, on Sunday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met representatives of families of hostages, including the family's headquarters assembly and the Hope Forum. For more than a year, waves of negotiations have stalled and failed to reach another agreement to return the hostages still held in Gaza. After 105 of them were released in a week-long truce, which took place back in November of last year, but no such agreement has been arrived at yet since then. During the meeting, Netanyahu stressed that recent developments in West Asia, including the fall of the Assad regime in Syria, and he said that it would help advance a deal to bring back the hostages. Now, this is a day after the armed wing of Hamas, Al-Qassam brigades, released a video of an Israeli hostage held in the Gaza Strip. In the undated 3.5-minute video, which the AFP has not been able to verify, Matan Sangaukar said that he has been in captivity for more than 420 days and called for public pressure on the Israeli government to secure the release of all captives held in Gaza. Qatar has said momentum is coming back for the talks, while a source close to the Hamas delegation told AFP that a new round of negotiations will most likely begin in the coming week. Well, as all of these developments come in from Israel, Israel continues to pound the Gaza Strip. In the latest, at least 16 Palestinians were killed in separate attacks in the central part of the enclave. 5 members of one family, including children, were killed in an attack on a camp for displaced people in Deir al-Balah in the early hours of Sunday. Then later the same day, at least 11 people were killed in an air attack on a residential house in Al-Buresh camp. The situation is no different in Lebanon. 10 days into a ceasefire between the Hezbollah group and Israel, and Lebanon's health ministry said that Israeli strikes killed 6 people in the country's south. In the strike on Beit Liv, 5 were killed, while 1 was killed in a strike on Deir Syrian. So the situation remains volatile across West Asia, especially after the fall of the Assad regime in Syria. But Netanyahu has suggested that the fall of the Assad government in Syria will or could have an impact on the return of the hostages from Gaza. As far as the internal adjustments are concerned within Israel, there are still talks being going on, and there are negotiations which one hopes will arrive at some conclusion. But the last time hostages were returned back to Israel was back in November of 2023, just about a month, a little over a month after they were taken hostage on the 7th of October by Hamas militants. Since then till now, there has not been any breakthrough as far as a return of hostages is concerned. There have been on and off reports of certain hostages who have died in captivity, but there are still a large number of hostages, the families of whom wait for their return. Protests have been going on across Israel. Families of the captives still held in Hamas, they have been protesting repeatedly, requesting the government to bring their loved ones back. All right, for more on this, we are now being joined by our correspondent Jody Cohen, who's joining me from Ra'anana, Israel. Jody, thanks for joining in. What can you tell us about Israel's response to the fall of Assad and the wider implications of Assad being overthrown from the region?
Hi, Siobhan. So Prime Minister Netanyahu called the day of Assad's downfall a historic day and said that it presents opportunities as well as dangers. He said that his priority is to defend Israel's border. Now, in terms of dangers, he was referring to potential chaos on the Syrian side of the buffer zone between Syria and Israel. We know that the UN was attacked by gunmen at various points in the buffer zone, and the UN and Israel coordinated to bolster defences, and Israel has temporarily, it said, moved to the Syrian side of the Hermon in the buffer zone. Now, another danger is potential advanced weaponry falling into hostile hands, including Hezbollah. And Israel has said that it's striking particular targets. For example, we're hearing reports that Israel has been striking chemical weapons. Now, the US said it's working with allies to destroy chemical weapons in Syria. Now, in terms of opportunities, Netanyahu said that Assad's regime was central to Iran's axis of evil, that Iran is now weaker. It's lost its land route, for example, through Syria to Hezbollah. And there are implications of Assad's downfall across the region, including for the hostages.
Jody, Netanyahu said that hopes have increased for the hostages after the fall of Assad. What are the sense you are getting on those developments coming in?
So Netanyahu suggested that a weakened Iran basically means a weakened Hamas, and that it could potentially lead to a hostage release deal. Now, a US official has given similar comments as well, and we know that Hamas has now given a list of around 33 hostages who fall into the humanitarian categories. So that's elderly, children, women, the sick and the badly wounded. And also 4 US hostages are reportedly on the list that don't fall into the humanitarian categories, and that's after President Trump said that there would be hell to pay across the Middle East if all the hostages are not released. Now, we're hearing from Qatar's Prime Minister that there's renewed momentum for talks, that Hamas, Qatar, Egypt and Turkey have been in intensified contacts, and that Israel could send a delegation to Cairo in the coming days for further talks.
Jody, thanks for getting us the latest on that. That was our correspondent Jody Cohen getting us the latest from Ranana, Israel.